So how then did Gottlob wind up in Morton?
Gottlieb had no relation here that was known. The sister of Gottlieb's future wife lived in Morton. Matter of fact, two sisters lived in Morton. One of them was married to a man named William Muschel, and the other was married to a man by the name of Schick. I don't know the first name. So that brought Gottlieb to Morton. He had two people that he had 2 years to get acquainted with. And after he had established himself here in Morton, he went back to Ohio and married the daughter of the farmer that he worked for 2 years. Now that was Anna Zimmerman, and Anna Zimmerman and her two sisters went to church together here. William Muschel became quite wealthy and owned several businesses in downtown Morton. He owned a grain elevator. He owned a drugstore. Him and a man named Bauman were developers, and to help in the development, he donated 4 acres of ground for the first high school, and he built his house in that general area too.
Do you remember the spelling of Muschel?
Moschel. My 5th grade teacher was Anna Muschel, was some relation of his.
Okay. All right. And the Schick family you mentioned is the Schick family that's
the
still
Schick
here?
family, apparently that husband of well, it would be a brother-in-law to Gottlieb, passed away at a young age, and so did William Muschel. William Muschel had a ruptured appendix and died in his 50s. So.
But that Schick family is the Schicks that are still around here.
They had one child, and that child never married, so that was the end of it.
Okay. And then your grandfather ultimately started the construction business after being a farmer, a farm laborer.
Yes, Gottlieb bought farm ground, and he eventually, at his death, owned over 400 acres of farm ground. But he bought a farm that was already established. It belonged to the Ackermans, who were a good friend of Gottlieb's, and helped finance him through this. And he started to remodel the buildings, the farm buildings, with concrete.
Yep.
And that's how he got in the concrete business. Other farmers saw what he did, and we found one building. He always put the date in the concrete foundation whenever he remodeled a barn, and the oldest one we could find was 1905, and that's the date we used for the company.
Now, I remember right, you told me, with the exception of your term in the service, you spent all your life here.
The what?
With the exception of the time you were in the Army,
Yes.
you spent all your life here. You've not moved elsewhere.
When I was in the Army, I went to Germany.
Right.
Yeah.
But other than that, you've not lived anywhere but Morton.
No, I never lived anywhere but Main Street. And my present, the home that I built after I married, I lived there 55 years.
That's the one across the tracks on Main?
That's at Main and Lakeland.
Oh, Main and Lakeland. Okay. All right. Okay. And when you went back to Germany, you told me, I think, that you found family members there and visited with
Yes, I did. It was my wife and I went on a tour of Europe in 1995, and after that tour, we met a couple from Morton that lived in Germany, and the wife was a German citizen, and that's Jim and Hannah Vernon. Jim Vernon is well known now because of his saving those kids at the library.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So they helped us tour Germany and find all the Aupperles that we knew of. And I found Godlup's house that he grew up in for 15 years. And I asked Hannah, how am I going to find another Aupperle? She said, just go up and knock on somebody's door.
Yeah.
And then ask them. So I did. And the lady said, well, I was an Aupperle before I married. And she welcomed us in and had us drink her plum brandy that she made, and we had a fine talk. And I learned about all of the Godlup's brothers that none of them came to the U.S.
You speak German?
I speak German because I was in Germany a year and a half. Yeah.
Okay. Did anything come out of those visits that enlightened you about the immigration?
Yes, and some of the relation that we met with were in the business of making soft drinks, and they apparently were fairly wealthy because they had a brand new house and a sports car, and but they came here to the U.S. and they wanted to see Godlup's house in the U.S.
Oh.
In 1927, Godlup built a new house on the farm that he had, and so they were very excited with that house because it was so well built. By that time, it was already 70 years old or so, and I still correspond with them today. So.
Interesting. And so, going back to your growing up period, what are some of the things that you reflect on or stick in your mind about your early years in Morton?
About my early years? Well, one thing I'd like to talk about a little bit, my dad had a brother that took over the farm after my grandfather passed away, and that uncle took me out to where the Morton Optimist Club was located. And I was a little boy, but I noticed there was a log cabin there, and I found out that log cabin was the home of a man by the name of Crosby. Crosby was one of Morton's very first occupants, and that building served as a church for a minister that came along in the late 1830s, I think it was. Well, the Optimists preserved that building. They built a new building for themselves in 1949, I think, or late 40s. And they did trap shoot out there, if you know what trap shoot is.
Sure do.
And they used that log cabin to hold live turkeys, geese, and ducks that were awarded to the best trap shooters.
Right.
And my job, being a little kid, was to go in that building and grab whatever animal they wanted me to bring out. And so that was my first experience with the Morton Optimist. Morton Optimist started around 1930, and they are still in business today of helping children and Boy Scouts. And they do a lot that people don't know about.
You said the cabin served as a church. Do you remember what church it was?
What
church? The cabin?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
But it was not
It was the only church.
Okay. Well, if it was, I'm going to guess if the guy's name was Crosby, it was
Crosby.
I would guess Methodist or
Uh,
Universalist or something like that.
I
Not
can't.
important. Just curious. What else do you remember about growing up here?
Well, I was fortunate enough to join the Optimist when I became of age. I became their historian. I've done a complete history on them. I was elected president of the Optimist 2 different times. I got their membership up to 80, which was the most that the fire department will let us put in another new building that we built. I just can't say enough good about the Optimist, because they're teaching young boys how to take care of themselves if they were ever out. And I actually was the one that went and negotiated with the Crosby family to buy the property. We bought 8 acres. We sold 4 of those acres to the brand new Morton Park District, and I happened to be on the Park District when we bought those. So I got my finger in a lot of different things there. I'm the historian for the American Legion, the VFW, the Optimist, Aupperle Construction. I like history.
Well, so do I.
And that's why and we're right here.
So your other family members, into your generation anyway, one of the questions about other accomplishments, but in your case they're pretty evident, because you've grown the business.
Yes.
And it's a prominent, highly respected Morton business that basically has involved your whole family, right?
Yes. I have a son that was the firstborn. He is an engineer, but he was so close to my brother Steve's age, he knew that he would probably never be able to take over the company. So he moved to Austin, Texas, has his own engineering company, and he just celebrated his 62nd birthday, and he is semi-retired.
Ah, okay. And then Steve, so you served in the Army in
Steve was in
50s.
Vietnam.
Steve was in Vietnam.
Yes, I was in during the Korean conflict.
Were you in Korea?
No, I went to Germany.
That's what I thought.
But,
okay, and then Steve was in Vietnam.
he was in the worst of it, and in 2013, I went to Vietnam and crawled in those tunnels that he said they couldn't talk him into going into when he was there.
Was he infantry?
I don't know, but he was a company clerk.
Okay.
So.
Well, the tunnels were bad places. My brother-in-law was in the tunnels.
Yes. Well, I can tell you, firsthand. It was not nice.
Okay. Let's see what other required questions we have here. I think we've covered a good many of them. Talked about where your mom and dad were.